He went there and worked as a sous chef under instruction from a Swiss pastry chef and learned how to make ice cream. They didn't really like to talk about it, about coming to Scotland, because I don't think at certain periods of their journey were that great, being Italians and living here during the war. Because my dad was one of 15.
Jeez.
Wow. Yeah. I always like to put the sweeties in neat lines and make things look tidy. And he said, "What's it like working for the tallies?" And I looked at him and I remember going, "Oh, it's fine, it's nice, it's good." I didn't think anything of it. It has its good moments and its bad moments. Most of the time it's just brilliant. He always fancied to shop in Morningside. Maybe it was because it was known as the fur coat, no knickers area. I don't know, but he just... I always get the heebie-jeebies when I'm going around the supermarket and you see somebody with an empty trolley and the first thing they're doing is putting in a tub of ice cream. No, the recipe hasn't changed. The machinery's changed over the years, but the recipe hasn't changed. Could you make us tomato ketchup flavoured ice cream? And I said, that tastes absolutely awful. I just not putting my name to that. I like to have a finger in every pie, maybe too many pies at times, accusing us of being, killing people by staying open. And he went, no, I need it for my daughter, she's dying. Do you know what? Ice cream means a lot to people. If you've got time to lean, you've got time to clean.
If you have been enjoying listening to the stories of entrepreneurs across Edinburgh, then why not subscribe? If you're on YouTube, you can hit the red button down below and hit the bell to get notifications. Or if you're listening on Spotify or Apple, then subscribe to the podcast. We hope you enjoy the show.
Yolanda, thank you so much for coming on and joining us.
You're welcome.
Tell us about your business.
Okay. We've been in business since 1908. Obviously, I've not been there since 1908. It was my grandfather that set it up along with my grandmother. So they arrived from Italy. They set up shop. Well, they didn't actually set up shop. They all got jobs. My grandfather went to work in the North British, which is now the Balmoral Hotel. So he went there and worked as a sous chef. Under instruction from a Swiss pastry chef and learned how to make ice cream. So that's how he learned how to make ice cream. It wasn't something that he came from Italy with. And then he opened up a shop in Musselburgh eventually. And that was how it started.
Wow. And so give us just some perception of how big you are now. How many shops, how many staff?
We've got two shops. We've got the wholesale side of the business, so we supply to a lot of other people. And currently we're sitting at the height of the season, we're at 116 members of staff. Wow. So usually now it's maybe down to about 98. Yeah. So a lot of staff.
Already that's something that I don't think many people will know, that actually, the art of crafting ice cream actually was in the Balmoral.
Yes, yeah.
That's where it all hails from.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
Oh, wow. Because I'd have just thought it would have come from Italy and it was in the blood. And yeah.
Well, you know what? Perhaps. But in those days, they didn't have the equipment that you have now to make ice cream. Yeah. You know, they used to mix it by hand on dry ice. So before my grandfather left there in 1902, I don't really know what went on. And sadly, there's not too much of the history written down because my grandparents came over here very early on, where a lot of the movement was maybe in the 1940s and 1950s when people came over. And they didn't really like to talk about it, about coming to Scotland, because I don't think at certain periods of their journey were that great, being Italians and living here during the war. So it just would almost be at times they wouldn't want to be known to be, Italian. I don't understand it because I didn't live through the war and the things that people, things that happened to Italians when they lived in Scotland. But I think it was quite traumatic. Mm-hmm. Well, I know, having, spoken to the aunts that actually just didn't want to talk about it. Because my dad was one of 15.
Jeez.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, I guess that's how to get staff for the shop.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
You have 15 kids.
I know.
Yeah.
And it was sad. I've only got one, so that plan isn't working.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So it was 1902 that
1908.
They came over.
They came over in 1908 and probably set up. They possibly did come over slightly before that. The history is a bit vague there. The stories that they originally had a small shop in the Grass Market, or flat rather, and they would walk to Musselburgh when they got their premises. Whether or not there's a bit of drama in there, I don't know. But you know what? This sounds good. Yeah. So they possibly did. Yeah. They worked really hard in those days.
Yeah. And is that Musselburgh shop still the same one?
Yeah, it's grown arms and legs since then, because originally it would be a little shop front, and over the years bits were added on. So it's now the whole of the shop in Musselburgh all the way back. And we just recently had a big shop fit. Sort of some of it during COVID when we couldn't do anything with the cafe. So we did that in lockdown. Yeah. And then we were closed in January, February this year, and we did the shop front, the whole building got done.
Amazing. So what's your earliest memory then of being in the business?
Possibly, I remember on a Friday night, I used to help my Auntie Annie behind the confectionery counter, as we called it. I always liked to put the sweeties in neat lines and make things look tidy. And I would work a Friday night and be behind the counter, and this man came in, and I was on my own, and he said, "What's it like working for the tallies?" And I looked at him, and I remember going, "Oh, it's fine, it's nice, it's good." I didn't think anything of it. And he must have bought his Mars bar and left. And then I said to my aunt afterwards, "What's a tally? Where did you hear that? That's the most awful thing." And of course, it was like a term for an Italian. And I was like, "What's so bad?" So that's a memory I have from many years ago, but I wasn't offended by it. It's like the people come in and they'll ask for tally's blood on a cone. And it's like the raspberry sauce. It's a very Glasgow term to ask for that.
Never heard that before.
No, neither have I.
Yeah.
So they'll still ask that?
Not so much the older generation.
generation.
The older generation will ask for some things that we'll not discuss in a podcast, where you just actually are open mouth thinking, you really never asked for that.
And so how old were you, roughly when that happened?
I think I was about 12 or 13. Yeah, 12 or 13, yeah, definitely.
And so obviously, okay, started with a single shop in Musselburgh that then has obviously over the years been extended and refurbed and the like. But how's the business unfolded sort of as the years have gone by?
I think it must have been in about the 60s, maybe slightly before that. We had a shop in North Berwick. Because there was such a larger family then, it was easier to have more shops and to manage things. So we had a shop in Quality Street, and then in the 60s, they opened up one in Craigmillar in Nidri, right on the corner, which is no longer there. And I think when my uncle died in about mid-70s, North Berwick was closed because there wasn't enough family to run it. So they closed it then. And the Craigmillar shop, we closed in 2002, 2003. It just wasn't, it was over the years, I think it had been controversial as to why they'd gone and opened up a shop there. But I think in the 60s, 70s, it worked. Yeah. Because there was a lot of passing trade.
And at this point, was all the ice cream being made on site, or were you kind of manufacturing it at a central location and...
all the mix that you would use to make the ice cream was made in the factory in Musselburgh, but the equipment would have been within the shops to then pour the mix into the vertical freezers to make the ice cream. So it was all made on site.
Okay.
But the actual boiling of the mix to make into ice cream was done in Musselburgh.
Right. Okay.
And so was this... I guess I'm asking you things that you necessarily weren't in charge of or might not even know the answer. But, as they kind of planned to open these shops, it all seemed very family-based. It was like, okay, you're going to go and run this shop and open it. Was that the strategy? Is that the right word to use?
I think that was just the way it was in the 60s and 70s. Is you as a family, you just did as you were told. And nowadays, I don't think that's definitely not the way it works. There's less family. I think you'll probably find that in a lot of family businesses, is that there's less family.
And so what point were you then trying to did you have an option to go into the family business?
I think that's a really interesting question, because I was never going into the family business. It wasn't a plan. I went to university, did business studies, thought, okay, what will I do? I thought, I'll go and work for British Airways. That's what I really want to do. Right. So I went and had an interview with British Airways, and it was like, okay, well, and then I don't know. I don't know how it happened. The next again day, I just thought, no, I'm not going to do that. I think it was because I didn't want to go and live in London. That was why. So, and then I didn't look at any other options. I just went for it, and I don't regret it. Sometimes I do, but most of the time I don't.
And what's it like working in a family business? I mean, I don't suppose
it's great. It's bad. It's everything. It's what it looks like any job, isn't it? It has its good moments and its bad moments. Most of the time, it's just brilliant.
Are there specific moments that you can think of that are like, especially in the beginning where you're trying to get in? Because I guess Was it your father was still involved and then?
My dad died when I was very young.
Okay.
I was 16 when my dad died. So, and my dad was the youngest of the 15 as well.
Okay.
So that was sad. And that I feel now that he would just love what we've done. He always wanted to have a shop in Morningside. So opening that was a great moment.
Oh, nice.
And my dad worked in the one in Craigmillar. That was the one that he ran with his brother Raymond.
Right.
So
Why did your dad want to open in Morningside?
I don't know why he'd always wanted to. He just thought it was a lovely area, and he always fancied a shop in Morningside. He used to say that. Maybe it was because it was known as the fur coat no knickers area. I don't know, but he just, he had a sense of humour. So I don't know why. Yeah.
And so there was 15 of them. How many of them were then involved in the business? All of them?
I think probably about 6 or 7 of them, actually, in the end. Some went off and did other things. They joined, they were in the army. There was a problem, obviously, for periods of it where they were interned and they couldn't work in the business. But yeah, towards 70s, 80s, 90s, there's probably about 7 of them in the business.
And so so then Morningside came on stream, what?
In 2000?
That was 2000, okay. And then, but you've also since then, where else do you sell your ice cream? Because certainly when we go to the theatre, or it's always.
That's not the area of the business I do. So to ask me to list all these people, I don't do the wholesale side. It's my cousin Chris.
Okay,
but lots. We've got lots of wholesale customers all the way up to Aberdeen.
Yeah,
and all the way down. I don't know how far it goes down just now, but it's up and down. Yeah. In fact, my friend sent me a picture the other day. She was dropping her daughter off in university in Aberdeen, and it's actually a really lovely picture. She must have been sitting in a cafe, and she just saw this Lucas van drive past her. She went, "Really, Aberdeen?" So, yeah.
And that's a good question. Then, sorry, it's a good thought. I don't know if the question is going to be any good. But, so, are you doing the wholesale deliveries yourself?
Yes, we do it ourselves. We've got our own trucks.
Yeah.
Just ice cream's a really difficult product. It's you've got to make sure it's the temperature control is always there. So I think we've always had the fear of giving it out to other people to look after because it involves so many dropping it off to somewhere, going back into there, or they have to hold it in storage. Then they've got to worry about their storage being at the correct temperature and then getting transferred to another van. So we've always done it ourselves.
Okay. So how important, and this is going to sound like a silly question, but how important is quality then?
Quality is everything. Right. Always has been. Yeah. Quality. And that was Luca's motto, was quality is everything.
Yeah.
Because there's nothing worse than ice cream that's melted and then gets refrozen.
No, it's just like that. It happens. Well, hopefully not at our end. But I think sometimes, I always get the heebie-jeebies when I'm going around the supermarket and you see somebody with an empty trolley and the first thing they're doing is putting in a tub of ice cream, albeit it's not the heebie-jeebies because it's not mine. It's the heebie-jeebies because I'm like, they're going to spend 40 minutes in here doing all their shopping, leaving the ice cream in the trolley. Then they'll sit in the car and play on their phone for half an hour because that's what I do. And it's like, how long was that ice cream out the freezer before it went into their freezer?
Yeah.
And I just think, and then that's when people wonder why there's something wrong. Is it doesn't have a great last, once you've bought it, you really need to put it in your freezer quickly.
Yeah. It's so funny that you can get so geeky over ice cream. Do you know what I mean? I know. I mean, that's just been your life, right?
Yeah.
For so long, it's just like
chocolates in neat lines, and ice cream tubs all facing the same way.
Yeah. How has the recipe changed?
No, the recipe hasn't changed. The machinery's changed over the years, but the recipe hasn't changed.
And how has the machinery impacted?
Well, it allows for faster production now, the machinery that we use. It's not so labour intensive. Before, the traditional machines, you'd all had to lift it by hand. So now it's what we call continuous. Some of it, but it depends what we're making because, we make so many different things that it's all made a different way.
Yeah. And there's so many flavors as well, right?
Yeah, there's so many flavors.
How do you come about coming up with
Usually, a lot of it can be just an idea that a staff member has, or somebody will say something, or sometimes we get emails, or we do competitions on Facebook. The best seller is still vanilla. So it doesn't really matter. Yeah, we make fig and walnut tomorrow or tiramisu or whatever it is that vanilla is still the best seller about everything else. So when you can't just sort of do a new flavour and then roll it out there, you've got to think about the allergen plan of it and all the different information that people will now come in and ask you, because you've got so much more information needs to be given to the customer these days. So you can't just say tomorrow I'm going to tub up 600 tubs of fig and walnut because you don't have the right packaging for it. And if you wanted to, you've got to really think about what you're doing before you launch a flavour.
Yeah, so
and make sure you're happy with it.
It's probably a much longer process than people realise.
Yeah, and you've got to have, probably order 20,000 tubs. So you've got to know that flavour is going to sell before you order 20, 50,000 tubs.
And how do you have that surety around, okay, this one's is worthwhile investing in the 20,000 tubs?
We would run it on a generic tub at first. We would make sure that it's sold. So the packaging might not be exactly the way that we would love it to be, brand wise, but we would do it like that and make sure it was the right fit.
And are you effectively testing it through the retail outlets first?
Yeah, we scoop it first. So you'd scoop it onto a cone or a carton and know it was really popular.
Yep.
Yeah, that's interesting. And so then once the flavour passes, it goes into wholesale and all of that. How's the pitch to people? Because surely, again, it must be like vanilla is just like the main thing people buy wholesale, and it's
like something we do events for weddings. We've got a vintage Rolls Royce that'll go out to weddings, and your question makes me think about this, is that people get a choice of flavours and they'll come back and they'll go, we'll have the vegan chocolate and cherry, and they'll choose something. Well, could you make us tomato ketchup flavoured ice cream or something? And you go, really, your guests won't want that, trust me, that might be what you'd like, but everybody will turn up at your wedding and just go, why was there no vanilla? But people want something that's quirky, and I'm like, if that's what you want, you have that and we'll put it in wee tubs for you, but just order vanilla for your guests, because the poor server is going to really get it when you don't have vanilla.
So you actually do that? You do bespoke flavours for
sometimes
weddings?
Wow. Well, not necessarily for restaurants as well. They might come and ask. They might, I've seen pea ice cream. I've seen, there's so many.
And is there anything you'll draw a line at and say no?
Well, yeah, because if we made one once and I said, that tastes absolutely awful, I'm just like not putting my name to that. And so, it didn't go out. We said, no, it's awful. They tasted it. They actually thought it was okay. And I was like, no, it's not okay. So, there is a line.
Wow. So what, out of interest, the tomato sauce flavour?
Tomato and basil, actually, I think it was. Tomato,
nice?
No, I didn't like it. Tomato and basil sorbet.
Right.
Wow.
There was pea ice cream. That was to make children eat their veg.
Right.
There's other ways.
Yeah, that's not, don't ruin a good thing.
What else? I've seen many, but they're not big sellers.
Yeah.
Well, I used to work for Walker's Crisps, or PepsiCo Walker's, and ready salted, salt, vinegar, cheese and onion. Those are your core three, and they probably still are to this day, and probably always still will be.
Yeah.
Do you know?
Yeah,
so you're right. It's like that's the vanilla crisp world, I guess.
Yeah, the vanilla crisp world.
Yeah.
So how did then your role change? So obviously when you're 13, you're behind the counter and doing it. How British Airways doesn't happen. You get in.
I know.
What were you doing?
Well, I remember leaving and going to work for the shop and still cleaning the glass shelves every Monday morning behind the counter, thinking, will I ever not be cleaning the glass shelves behind the counter? And I still clean the glass shelves sometimes behind the counter. Not as often, but I do still do it and I still love it. It just did. It just evolved. We got Morningside. We purchased Morningside and we did a big shop fit on that. And it's just, I don't know, it's just evolved. It's just grew arms and legs.
And so what does your day-to-day look like now?
It's very varied, always busy, never a dull moment. I like to have a finger in every pie, maybe too many pies at times.
What do you mean by that? In terms of different aspects of the business, or?
Different aspects of... No, just different things that go on every day. There's never a dull moment. Never a dull moment. Staffing is always trying. If somebody phones in sick, I always feel responsible because I hate the thought of the customers not having the right service that they deserve. So it's like, what's the solution here? If I don't go in and make sure, then if you walk in to get your vanilla cone and there's nobody standing behind the counter, what we meant to do. So it's challenging.
And how have you found kind of recruitment then? For the right people? I mean, what's that journey been like for you?
That has been a journey, and It never used to be a problem. I would say that we did struggle a little bit,
Yeah.
but everything's over the summer maybe. But now I think it's all calmed down a bit.
Right.
It was complicated. I think it was probably, I hate to use that word COVID, but I think, that was, everybody blames COVID, and that really annoys me when everybody blames, nothing is all COVID. However, that did, because you didn't want to employ more people, because you didn't want to take them off furlough, because at periods when furlough was there, you couldn't, if you took them off furlough, that was it. You had to give them full hours. So everything just felt so complicated. And I don't think we've ever sort of recovered from the fear of the complication that COVID gave us.
You have a lot of younger staff.
Yes.
Students. What is that? I had a business before this where we had a lot of students, and it was brutal. It was just bailing on shit.
I don't want to say that of all my students, but
no, and same with us. But
yeah. So it brings its challenges with a younger staff, definitely, because we're older, Alan, and wiser, so we've got all these years of experience where you do sometimes want to look and go, really? That was the decision you came to? That was the solution that you found? And then I think to myself, I make excuses, think, that's what would I have done at that age? So it's like making allowances, but it can be challenging.
So I'm interested in two angles, actually. My first question is, what are you looking for in a team member? So someone who you want to represent your brand, what are some of the traits that you say, right, that's...
Honesty, integrity are a huge part of what we're looking for. Yeah. Reliability, cleanliness, just, hard working, a good work ethic. It's like, what do you get from an interview? All these things that you think that you're getting is, reliability is huge for us.
Yeah, because you got a staff that shop. You got to have people there, and you got to. Do you have once then you accept? Do you have kind of training programs, especially? I'm just thinking younger. Because a lot of the people, the students that are maybe working with you, this is their maybe first job. So you're not just you're teaching them how to have a job as well as then do the job.
Absolutely, and that can be. You do feel like you're still taking over from where the school's left off at times. And you're just like. Some skills that they're not taught at school, it can be hard work, but we do flow training. So any staff member that comes on has to do online training, and they have to have covered certain aspects of that before they're allowed to actually work behind the counter, health and hygiene being one of them. How not to, bite your nails standing behind a counter, how to wash your hands. That's obviously a major one. Wash your hands whenever you've touched money, and it's even bigger now than it was before.
It's interesting what you said there, Yolanda, about the picking up where the schools have left off. And there is a big responsibility, isn't there, to kind of show people and role model the right kind of behaviours, because a lot of these students, kids who come in and work, they'll look back to their days in Luca's or their first employer and just say, what was that like?
Well, I think they do. I think sometimes they might look back and think, oh my God, she was a nightmare to work for. Yeah. And I remember being 18, 19 and working in John Lewis. And I used to think, God, I can't stand my boss, right? Because I actually learned a lot of her. She was an absolute, we didn't get off with a thing, but I learned so much in that year that I worked there. In fact, having jobs as a student, I did learn lots. Before I went into the family business, because I think that's really important before you go into a family business, is go and work somewhere else. So I did as a student. I worked at the Scottish Whisky Heritage Centre. I was a waitress for a couple of other places that did outside events, John Lewis, and I'm so glad I did that.
And was that something that you choicefully did, or were you told by kind of your family to go off and do that?
No, I did it off my own back, yeah. But I would actually make it a rule now that if anybody coming in, then they better go and get a job somewhere else before they think it's their entitlement to come and work in the family business just because they have the name Luca.
Definitely. Sorry, did you have a question, mate? So I want to just my follow on from the kind of what traits are you looking for in a person. It goes back to some of the keys to great retailing, because you've mentioned already this idea of chocolates in a straight line, tubs faced upright, cleaning the glass. What would you say are the absolute non-negotiables for good retailing?
Non-negotiables
Yeah,
for good retailing. Phew, it's quite a lot.
Yeah.
Non-negotiable. Well, you have to turn up on time. Your appearance has to be correct. Your manner has to be correct with the customers. Non-negotiable. Hygiene is non-negotiable.
Yeah.
It's totally non-negotiable.
Yeah.
Some of the rules and regulations that we have set out at induction are non-negotiable, such as, you can't wear a shell necklace, let's say, you've got a necklace with shells and you say to that person, you're not actually allowed to wear that. Your induction would have said, it's only a small chain or whatever, because the environmental health would say that could split and then it could go everywhere. And so 2 weeks later, that might still be on and you're like, my God. Just there's lots of things that are non-negotiable.
Yeah. But okay, take the chocolate in straight lines. Why? Why is that important?
Visual, because visual merchandising to me is really important. I don't want it looking like a supermarket, but I still want it to look neat and tidy like some supermarkets. Definitely the clean glass, everything, the finger marks on the door. I go out places and I sort of look and go, I wonder how long that sugar sashay's been underneath that booth seating over there. I sometimes look at it, trying to explain to them, it's like a box. I mean, you walk into that box, your eyes should be going up and around and what's not right. But trying to make somebody see the way that the box should look, I think sometimes can be quite difficult with all the training tools that we have. We try now do videos. Yeah. So it's like a video of how to make a hot chocolate. Okay, so this is how you make the small hot chocolate. This is how you make the medium hot chocolate. This is how you make a cone. This is how your chocolate cabinet looks. But with constant staff changeover, that can be difficult keeping on top of it.
Yeah, but as you say, if you've created it in a video, at least it's there to be leveraged time and time again. Yeah, good.
You mentioned a little bit about COVID, and I don't want to dwell in COVID because we're for obvious reasons. COVID. Yes, we are.
Although are we? Because some staff still test.
Anyway, right, we'll leave that one. How was that season for you? You mentioned a little bit about the furlough, but in terms of the trading of the business?
I think that's the sickest I've ever felt, when we all knew there was something wrong, or did we all know there was something wrong? Part of me was like going, this is ridiculous. It's going to pass. It's never going to happen what everybody's saying, that we're going to close down. So that fateful Friday, whatever it was, the 22nd of March, when Boris Johnson came on and said, right, that's it, close your doors as soon as possible. The dread, was just like, oh my God, this is reality. And nobody knew. It was just ridiculous. It seemed ridiculous, but right. But I was like, I just think, God, as any business owner would have been like, shit, this is awful. So you close the doors. And I remember we closed the doors on the Friday, let's say at 6:00. And I think we traded to the cafe, but we traded on the Saturday and the Sunday for takeaway because you could. Okay, so you were still allowed. I can't. It changed so many times, but I'm pretty sure. You could still do that. And I think, let's say on the Sunday, this dreadful email came into inquiries accusing us of being, what was it, killing people by staying open. And I remember that being a moment. So we didn't do takeaway then. We just stopped.
Because
I'm not
of
saying
that email.
It did have an impact, definitely. Somebody thinking that would be, that was maybe a tally moment behind the counter of modern times. When that person sent that email, I was like, wow. But I think everybody had their opinion.
Right.
So anyway, after that, I mean, a lot of places were just doing takeaway, but we stopped. I can't remember till when, but we closed. Certainly the Musselburgh shop must have been closed for about 2 months, if not 3 months. I can't remember exactly. But the Morningside shop, probably after 2 months, we opened that because we had a window. So that felt quite safe to do that. And we were able to put perspex, so nobody had to go anywhere. It was 2 staff members could work in a massive area. So we opened Morningside. And then people, of course, were taking pictures of the queues as they did and saying they weren't socially distanced. I remember policing queues, actually.
Yeah,
that was it. Gosh, I just not think about it.
It was crazy. Well, was there anything that you kind of then pioneered in that moment that was different for the business that you were able to, that you're kind of still doing? Was there any big learning?
Yeah, we've got an online shop now, which was, designed in a week basically, because we closed on the 22nd and that was March, and Easter was God knows when, was it April, 5th or 12th of April? So we had all these Easter eggs to sell because you don't normally sell through on Easter eggs until the week of Easter. So we're like, what are we going to do? The storeroom was lined with them. So we sold them online, and we could have sold, honestly, 50 times more than we had. Dobies apparently at this point had just closed their doors. I actually almost emailed Dobies and go, do you want me to get rid of some of your Easter eggs for you? And I didn't know. I just thought, no, be glad that you've got rid of your own and don't look for, So we sold Easter eggs online. We delivered them all ourselves because once we'd successfully done the Easter eggs, because that was a problem, there's nothing you can do with an Easter egg after Easter. Nobody wants to look at an Easter egg after Easter. We did the online shop for ice cream because we were getting requests for, oh my gosh, how can we get your ice cream? And one I particularly remember was being in the office on my own, probably with my head in my hands going, when is this going to end? What's going to happen? And this man phoned the shop and he said, I really need to get some ice cream in Bowness or somewhere. And I went, I'm really sorry, but we're closed. And he went, no, I know you're closed, but I really need vanilla ice cream. And I remember rolling my eyes in my head. I know, going, really? And he went, no, I need it for my daughter. She's dying. You know how you have that awful moment? You're like, oh my God, I'll drive it through, but you couldn't, you know? So we had a production member, because we were still allowed to be in production because we were a food business and we were still supplying to supermarkets. So we had a team of 6 in. So one of the girls that was working lived somewhere close by and delivered it. And he was like insistent on me, like, no, just have the ice cream.
Wow.
So,
You can see your eyes.
Yeah, no, do you know what? Because then there was another one, and that's when you just thought, oh my God.
Yeah.
Do you know what? Ice cream means a lot to people. To me, it was like, oh my God, really? And then she died, and he sent us a card and her order of service. And do you know what? It is actually
Wow. And, because you're right. It's amazing, isn't it?
It was. Yeah,
what
never
meaning people
thought.
attach.
Because when I answered the phone, I thought, yeah, you and everybody else, mate. And then I hated myself for that moment, because you just don't know what's going on in somebody else's life when they want a tub of vanilla ice cream. But he got it, and he was so grateful.
Yeah. But doesn't that just show the strength of your brand as well?
Sorry.
Obviously that person must have loved Luca's ice cream.
Yeah, I know. Wow. And that didn't actually enter my mind at that point until well after that, where I just thought, wow, you
just don't know, do you?
No, you know.
And I guess it's incredible to be in a part of a business that's existed for so long, that is such a fundamental, a way of life. Like, I know my wife's parents, they're this, like, been in Edinburgh their whole lives, and like, it's like Luca's. It's the only option. Like, there's no other option. That's what
lovely.
we get.
I think maybe as the person that's involved in it, I don't see it as much as anybody else will say that to me, and I think, really. I don't always say it like that. Although I know will travel for miles to come to Musselburgh, and it's like a bit of an institution. I sometimes think, God, imagine it wasn't there. Would there be a massive outcry?
But those stories during COVID are the examples of like the actual meaning. And as you say, it's ridiculous. It's ice cream.
I know, but it meant so much. It was honestly, at times it was like Santa turning up at the door because at the April, what was it, March? So April, May, our trucks going out, because that was allowed, one delivery person going out in a truck, people could go online, they could order their packs of ice cream. Obviously you couldn't just order a cone, but it was like, people were like looking out their window, waiting on this van to turn up. I remember one day we had 286 deliveries going out and 6 of us were dealing with it. And afterwards, it was myself and Jackie that were dealing with it, because we had to reduce the team because the furlough would come in, but you weren't allowed to split whatever you could. You couldn't just have somebody on half on furlough or not. So we were all having to work. And the drivers would go out and Jackie and I would sit there and go, oh my God, that was like getting the school kids out the door this morning, just waiting for peace. But do you know what it was? It was a proud moment doing that, getting those delivery trucks out and making people so happy. It was lovely.
Yeah.
But that is what ice cream's about, happiness, right? Yeah. And it's moments of joy that
apparently it's all about happiness. Yeah. It's a bit like Disney, isn't it? They say everybody in Disney World smiles.
Yeah. There you go.
Behind the scenes. I did a Disney trip once and it's not like that. But anyway.
Well, have you ever seen a miserable face eating some ice cream?
No, I hope not.
Exactly.
No.
There you go.
I hope not.
Only when you drop on the floor. When you're like looking at it.
Well, that's another thing. How do you train? Is that, that's in our training guidelines actually, is that customers might walk outside, the top could fall off the top of the cone falls on the ground, the customer comes back in. Whose fault is it? Anyway, we would always replace a cone. But, somebody once I saw them charging, I'm like, oh my goodness, no, don't. And it's like, how can you remember everything? There's so much to remember.
Yeah.
But that was now a training thing.
Yeah. It's such a cultural, having that behind your business is such a cultural, because I've actually thought about it before, like what happens in that circumstance. And I wouldn't know what.
But you've actually thought about the scenario of when ice cream falls off the cone.
I'm not sure if you understand, but I'm having a moment because I love ice cream.
But if you dropped your pint tonight in certain pubs in town, they wouldn't. Or somebody bumped into me, be like, well, buying you the pint.
Yeah.
It's a good point, actually.
But
we've always done that. It's always, within reason, but it's happened. You see them do it at the front of the counter, or they've done it at the door. Then you would just replace the cone.
Yeah.
So Yolanda, listen, I know this is about you, but can I just tell me more about your little fixation with falling ice cream?
Well, no, I love ice cream, and I've thought before, if I go out and this fell on the ground, I would 100% go back in and buy another one. I would spend the money again because I would be so disappointed. But I have thought that, like, I wonder if I'd get it for free because I dropped it on the floor. And then I'm like, how much could I eat? And then drop it.
Do you know what? I'm a bit worried now that we're going to have this huge, I don't know how many people are going to watch this. A queue of people going, I dropped my cone, I dropped my cone, I dropped my cone. And I'll blame you.
That was brilliant.
Yolanda, what is the future of Luca's? Where are you going?
We're opening up a new factory because where we are is too small. So we're opening up a new factory. So that's going to be the 2024. No design to do any more shops yet. And make the online shop even better.
Yeah. Which again is a great, I guess, a blessing then out of COVID is that, hey, we've got this
£30 GoDaddy site that we dealt with just during COVID. That was literally what we did.
Is that still what you're operating on?
No, not anymore. But that is what we were operating on.
It worked, eh?
And it worked.
Yeah.
It worked, yeah.
Making it happen. Great. Amazing. We ask all our guests, what is your guiding principle in business?
If you've got time to lean, you've got time to clean. That's my favourite saying.
Go on. So, what does that mean?
Well, there's always something to be done. So if I see, idle moments, I'm like leaning. I'm like, no, come on. If you've got time to lean, you've got time to clean.
Brilliant.
Get the lick out list up. We've got a lick up list, as we call it, or a cleaning document.
A lick up
list for cleaning up different areas, be it the cafe or the counter. So, yeah.
And I guess that, the thought behind that as well is like, okay, it's sort of like, I think it could be understood by some like, oh, come on, like I'm just flipping. But it's excellence.
Within reason.
Yeah. But it's excellence.
Absolutely.
That's what it comes back to is like, we want people to come to our store and we want them to have a great experience. We want it to be clean. We want them to be wowed at it.
Oh, yeah.
And so a part of that is just like, let's just keep this place clean.
There's no excuse for things not to be clean and tidy. They're really, mid-service, obviously, but there's just no excuse.
Yeah.
Also, I would seriously though say to anybody in business is that if you don't know the answer, just please dig and find out, especially in senior management. It's like, don't make a decision. We need to make a decision here, but sometimes I feel that, we just need to dig more to get to it rather than running to ask the question and then ask the question if you don't know.
Yeah. And what do you mean? Have you got an example? Is there something you've...
Have I got an example? Not that's springing to mind right now. There's nothing that's... sometimes I just think in general, people are just too quick to ask. It's like being lazy, not looking through your emails. It's like probably, I do it. The information's there in emails sometimes, but you just can't be bothered to go look back at the emails. Like looking for your address to get here today, I thought, I'll just text you. And I thought, no, you won't. Just look back at your emails because it's going to be there.
Yeah. And that works on the small stuff, but on the big stuff too, right?
Yeah, all of it. Everything.
Yeah.
Big and small.
Yeah. We need a new factory. I was like, well, okay, let's work it out. Let's just not.
Yeah.
Where's the new factory going to be?
Walliford, just outside Musselburgh.
Okay.
Amazing. Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for coming on, sharing a bit of your story, and good luck in the future.
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you.
Thanks.